Hi everyone, welcome to episode 3 of My Campus GPS Facebook Live. This is the place where we talk about how parents can help their high school student prepare for university. I'm Janet McDonald and I'm from My Campus GPS, and I help high school students and parents with the process of applying to university. So things related to admission and scholarship preparation and career exploration. So that's what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about how career exploration can help your student save time and money and also reduce stress. So those three things, are interconnected because, time is money and money is money. And when we are reducing, our time and our money, then we're less stressed. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So to get that started, I want to give you a bit of, background information that will help you to understand how problems can arise in university. So I was a university academic advisor for about 5 years. And so really what that means is that if a student, a current university student, had a question about what their courses they should take and the requirements that they needed to complete their degree program, they would make an appointment and come into my office, and we would go over their record and discuss those questions that they have. So as you may know, when you complete a degree, you are required to complete a certain number of credits or courses, and you're also required to follow some rules and regulations around those credits. So you'll be required to complete certain kinds of courses based on the degree program and the major that you are in. So for example, the requirements for a Bachelor of Arts degree would be different than a Bachelor of Science degree. There'd be some courses that could be the same, but there would be some specifics that are required for each of those things. And then within the majors themselves, there will also be some requirements. So for example, the requirements for a Bachelor of Science in psychology would be different than the requirements for a Bachelor of Psychology or a Bachelor of Science in biology. So that's just a little bit of background. Now, normally students, the degree is set up so that if a student follows the requirements and goes full time, they would graduate in 4 years. That's usually the case. So if a student is attending full-time and no problems arise and they kind of cruise right through, then they should graduate in 4 years. So what could potentially cause a student to not graduate in 4 years and therefore delay either going on to professional school or graduate school or whatever, or delay going out into work where they could be earning money and paying off student debt if they have student debt. So other than some students choose not to go full time. Okay, so that can obviously elongate their program. Or maybe some students, there's a financial issue that maybe they have to take a year off or something like that and work and then go back. But I'm not talking about those students. I'm talking about the students who go full-time and intend to graduate in 4 years. What can prevent them from doing that and kind of delay that milestone so that they can get out and potentially start working? So in my experience, one of the major reasons for this is because they're making changes within their degree program. So they may be changing something like they're switching their degree from a Bachelor of Arts to a Bachelor of Science, or they're switching their major from one major to another major. So university is set up, similar, I guess you would say, in a way as high school, that so they are required to take certain courses, and of course those courses stack so that there are prerequisites that you must complete before you can move on in your degree and take the higher level courses that are required for that program. So if you get off track with that, then you you have to make up those courses, and sometimes those courses aren't available for you to take that term. You might have to wait till next term, or you might have to wait until the following year. So this can really kind of end up being like a big old mess and that can really kind of cause problems, so that you need to take more courses. And therefore, that can elongate your program, so that you're not graduating in 4 years and you're not progressing on to that next level, whether that's, like I say, professional school or graduate school or out working. Okay. So another thing too is if you transfer universities, that can sometimes cause problems as well, because there's a lot of different kind of rules and stuff, but one of the main things is that if you transfer universities, only certain courses may transfer, and if you don't have a certain grade in a course, it might not transfer, so you actually lose that course altogether pretty much. So these are some obstacles or some mistakes or some kind of some problems that can arise throughout a degree program that can cause you to have to take extra credits, pay extra tuition, and delay getting out and making money to pay off your student debt. So, the major culprits of this, so the big problems in these situations is, the first one is that, switching degree programs from, for example, from a BA to a BSc, or switching later in your program, so in 3rd year or 4th year. That can cause more problems as well, because you're really behind the 8 ball and you really have to make up some courses. Or switching more than once, so changing several times. I used to have students in my office who had changed 3 or 4 times. They were really just they didn't have any focus, and they were kind of just changing their mind and wandering kind of aimlessly, and they were really racking up a lot of debt because they were taking these extra courses. They were maybe not able to work in the summer because they were trying to take the courses, and it was very stressful for them. So even if you have the required number of courses to graduate, if you don't have the specific kinds of courses for that program, then you will not be eligible to graduate. So that means that, of course, you're delaying going out and getting a job. So instead of, going out and making money, you're sitting in class, paying extra tuition for courses that, if you had have figured this out sooner or better, if you had a better idea, you probably wouldn't be in that situation. So, like I say, when I was an academic advisor, I saw all of this firsthand, and it wasn't just at my particular university where I worked. I have a lot of friends who work in universities, and they say the same thing. This is quite common, across Canada. So this isn't just specific to my particular experience. In fact, in Nova Scotia, just a couple of years ago, there was a transition task force, and it said that 17% of students drop out in their first year of university. So that's kind of scary. And here's the one that I want to focus on, is that only 39% of students graduate within that 4-year time period. So that means less than 40% of students are graduating in that kind of on time. Now, there are a lot of reasons for this, and a lot of them are financial, and I will absolutely say that not all students intend to go full-time. They might intend to go part-time so that they can work part-time, or they take a year off to help pay for the following years. Like, I get that. But that, again, that's not the problem that I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the students who had intended to go full-time and to graduate in 4 years, but they're not. So, when I was an advisor, I had students in my office, on a pretty regular basis in, various states of emotional turmoil because of this issue. So some of them just had minor problems where they were just changing a major, and it was relatively early on in their program, and it didn't make much of an impact. And then there were the other students who it did, make a significant impact, mainly because it was going to cost them a lot more money And they were very stressed about that because of the debt, piling up, and they were aware of that. So, they were in a bit of a mess, and they were pretty messed up about it, basically. So, I was the one who had to tell them that they need to take these extra courses. And, it was really frustrating to me because I really felt like there was no need of it. It was really sad because I really felt like it's just so unnecessary. It doesn't need to get this bad. I guess this is a cautionary message, and like I said in episode 1, I'm kind of that person who's like further along in the journey, or who kind of knows what's up ahead, and I see my role as kind of pointing out to you, the opportunities that you can take advantage of, but also telling you about the potential or the common mistakes that I saw and ways that you can avoid those. So this is definitely not to scare you or to put a lot of pressure or anything like that, but these are some of the common mistakes I see that, and I think that I have some knowledge of how that they can be prevented. So this is, a big mistake, and so how can your child avoid making these mistakes? So I really think that, this is going to sound maybe a little bit trite, but I really think that they should know why they're going to university and what they hope to achieve there. It doesn't even have to be super specific, but, and university should be a place to explore and to develop new interests, and to hopefully, develop a love of learning and everything. But probably at the end of the day, your student is going to university, at least in part, to get a job when they graduate. So, if that's the case, then that kind of really vague idea of, well, I'm going to university because I want to get a job, that's not really going to be motivational enough for them. So I truly believe that if students were to, stop and really consider why they're going to university and to develop some specific goals for themselves, that would be helpful and motivational for them. And in my opinion, one of the best ways to do this is to do some meaningful career exploration activities before they go to university. So students should have at least an idea of some careers that they're interested in, that have potential for them to pursue, or perhaps a career area that they are interested in before they go off to university. So they should know that basic kind of career area and the basic academic pathway or pathways, because there's often more than one, pathways to get to those careers of interest. And again, this should be more than, just a vague idea. It should be a well-researched decision based on real information. So the best way to get this information is through these career exploration activities. So career exploration, if it's done correctly, is a process. It's kind of a process over time. It's not kind of just a one-time activity, like a one and done. It's a process that students can go through. So here are some things that they can do in career exploration. The first thing is to do some online career assessments. That's a good place to start. Now, they are not really all that scientific or anything, but what I really like about them is that they really kind of force students to kind of slow down and focus on some of the questions that they're asked. And students are really busy, and they don't often, take the time to really kind of slow down and think about some of these things. So the different types of career assessments, to do a few of those and to kind of think about them, and to that'll help them kind of discover their personal values and their work values, some of their interests, their skills, more about their personality. And here's the thing, when they do that, they should take some time to really reflect on the results of that. So, make some connections between them, look for patterns and make some links, and, they might discover that they don't, some of the results they really don't connect with them at all. And you know what, that's good information too, because career exploration isn't just about discovering what you want to do, it's also discovering what you don't want to do. And that's really valuable information as well, to find out what it is that you don't want to do. That's an important discovery as well. The second thing is having conversations with people like guidance counselors and parents and friends' parents maybe, and university admissions people, and someone like me, you know, who can ask them the right kinds of questions that will get at the information that they really need to make good decisions. They should also know how to access labor market information. So what do the numbers say? You know, is this a career with some growth potential? Where will the jobs be? What kind of salary can I expect? Now, I don't know that I would put a lot of emphasis on this kind of information, but it's a part of it. And for some students, it might mean more than others. So some students might really kind of want to know that information and have that kind of security that that there's something that they're interested in. There is some potential for a job if they were to pursue it. So, you know, that's something to consider anyway. They should know how to access information on the academic pathways to the careers that they're considering. And along with that is kind of the what are the skills that they should be developing while they're doing their academic program, so that when they graduate, they're marketable. Like they're developing those marketable skills so that when they graduate, they're more likely to be hired for that particular career. So the final thing, and in my opinion, the most important, is that they should be doing some real life research into the careers that they're interested in. So this is that kind of, you know, IRL, the in real life stuff. So this is activities like job shadowing and volunteering, or maybe your school has a co-op program or something like that, or information interviews. Those are great too. So all of these things are allowing the student to get into the work environment and to see people, see the work environment, see other people in that environment. And this is the type of information that you can't get from online information. It's kind of that stuff that you can kind of see, and it helps the student to kind of see if they can picture themselves in that work environment. And if they can, that can be a great kind of thing to solidify that goal in their mind, and then that can be very motivational. So the information interview, for example, would be, you know, just a 20-minute meeting with someone in the career that they're considering. They can ask them questions. They get to, again, to see the work environment. They can ask them about their job. They can ask them how they got into the job. So, you know, that could tell them a little bit more about a pathway that they could take. So these are what I'm talking about, meaningful career exploration activities, the ones that are going to give your students some really solid information that they can then use to plan out the next few steps that they're going to take. So once a student has done these, they'll have a lot of really good information that will then help them to choose, you know, their courses and the program, and, you know, help them make decisions based on real information. So this is what I mean when I say that I help students and parents make informed decisions. This is decisions based on real information. And when you base your decisions on this type of information, the chance of you choosing something wrong or the wrong path for yourself, you know, is a lot less. So too often I think what happens is that students don't put enough emphasis on these activities or doing these, or maybe they just don't even know that they should be doing them. And they can, you know, end up making some assumptions, like making decisions based on assumptions, or just, you know, very little information. And this is like, they're making a decision that is $40 to $80,000 decision. So it's important that they put a lot of time and energy into making it. So maybe you have a student and they tell you that they know what it is that they want to do, and that's possible. I mean, I'm not saying that that's that's impossible, but if that's the case, then my question to them would be, how did you make that decision, and what information did you base that decision on? So there are some students, for example, who will just, they know they want to be a dentist, and they go to university and they become a dentist, and they're a dentist for their whole life. So that's possible. I'm definitely not saying that students don't know anything or anything, but that's not what happens normally. So that's less common than students who don't really know, or they might have an idea but they're not sure, or they really don't have any idea at all. So for a student like that, I think it's still a great idea that they for example, just even have an information interview with a few dentists, because there are different kinds of dentists, and some who own their practice, some who don't own their own practice, and that will just help them to solidify that decision, and it'll be a decision that's then based on more real information. So now you're probably thinking, well, okay, this is all great and everything, but what if my student changes their mind? Like, what if we do all of this stuff and they end up changing their mind? Is all of that work, was it all for naught? Like, is it all down the drain? And I would say absolutely not. This is the great thing about career exploration. Okay, so once the student knows how to go through this process and knows how to find this information, they then have the information that they need to use this again and again in the future. So, people change and jobs change, and, there's that stat that's out there now that says that about half of the students in middle school currently will be in jobs that, don't even exist now. So they will have jobs in the future that don't even exist now. So you think, well, how do you prepare for that? But if you know the right kind of information for yourself to make decisions, then that will give you the tools to make those decisions, even if it's kind of a really vague thing, or times are changing. Okay. So, and I've worked with students for about 20 years. I know that it's not right to think that a student at 17 should know what they want to do with the rest of their life. I mean, that's crazy, and it puts way too much pressure on students to figure that one thing out and know exactly what it is and stay with it for the rest of your life. But what we can do is we can give them the tools and the skills that they will need to make the good decisions, and make those decisions in the right way. And that's what career exploration is. It's a tool that they can use again and again throughout their life as the situation arises and when they need to use it. So, they can use it to change their path, and to do that much sooner and much smoother than they would if they didn't know some of this information. So they're not kind of, like a shot in the dark. They're aware enough that they know that they want to change something, and then they'll know how to do that and what information they should be basing that decision on. So, and I think they're probably less likely to make those huge changes as well, because they're keeping their information in check, and they know themselves quite well. So in that case, I think that they're more likely, to go through their degree program in the right way. Maybe they'll make some changes, but the impact will be much less, because they'll have done it, sooner and smoother. They'll know how to do it better, so they're not going to be adding on that time and getting in that big old mess like I used to see with students in my office. And they'll also know some information about what kind of skills they should be developing along the way too, because they'll have that knowledge as well. So I truly do believe that if students did more meaningful career exploration earlier, that they would be much more successful at university, and they would just be a lot happier, at university as well. There'd be a lot less stress. So, I think part of this is kind of the practical part, but then there's that kind of mindset part too, because when we give them the tools that they need, that helps them to be more confident in the choices that they make. And I do hear, about students who are stressed, even into grade 10, they're stressed about making these choices and feeling the pressure of making these choices and everything. But if we can show them that, this is a process and it's okay, you don't have to know exactly, but here are the tools that you can use to decide this. It's really kind of, I think it takes a lot of that pressure and the stress and anxiety that I think that sometimes that students feel, and kind of lifts that a little bit and kind of empowers them, because they know the tools that they need to use, and they have more of a goal in mind. It's more motivational for them because they can see the future. So I think that there's a part of this that's a mindset thing too, and that can be just as important sometimes as those, the actual skills that they develop through this. And, I really think that if they were to do this, more of it kind of sooner, that they'd be less likely to end up in somebody like my office, in a big old mess. So why should students do this in high school? And specifically, I would suggest that they do it in grade 11 or even perhaps grade 10, depending on your student. There are a couple of reasons why I think grade 11 is the ideal time. Now, if your student's in grade 12, it's definitely not too late. I would suggest that they do it before they go off to university, though. But grade 12 is not too late. Grade 11, in my opinion, is probably ideal. There are a couple of reasons for that. So first of all, it's just that practical thing of, they'll be making decisions in grade 12 and prerequisites for programs. So grade 11 might give them some time if they're missing something to make that up, and it'll just make, choosing a program in grade 12 that much easier for them if they've done this already, because career exploration is something that once you do it, like once you learn it, then you keep it with you for the rest of your life. So if they've done it in grade 11, then they'll know all of the information for grade 12. So another reason is because grade 12 is super duper busy. So if you know anyone with a student in grade 12, or if you have a student in grade 12, you know that they are flat out, and there's so much going on in grade 12 that, this isn't the ideal time to lay something else on their plate. So if they can do this in grade 11, and carry it with them through to grade 12, then that would be better. It'd be better to kind of check this off in grade 11 than to try to to wait until grade 12 to do it when they've got a lot more on their plate. The other thing is, and this is kind of a bonus thing, is that when they apply to university and for scholarships, a common question on admission and scholarship applications is something like, why are you choosing this program? Or what career do you intend to pursue and why? So if students have done some of this career exploration stuff beforehand, they will be much better able to answer that question. And that will improve their chances of admission and scholarship. So that's just, a little bonus too. So that's my very long answer to why career exploration can help you and your student save time, money, and reduce stress. I really do think that it's a lot more important than people realize, and I don't think they realize the potential impact of doing it, and the potential positive impacts that it can have. And so, here's a question for people too: is that how would it have been for you if you had that kind of information when you were in high school? Like, would that have made a difference in your life? And, you know, I'm not saying that it would have prevented a whole bunch of, you know, problems or mistakes. It's not a miracle cure or anything. But a lot of people tell me, a lot of parents will tell me, gee, you know, I wish I have had that kind of information, and I think, you know, it would have gotten me a lot to where I am a lot quicker and, you know, with less stress. So, you know, sometimes people will say to me, Janet, you know, I wish I had you in high school, and sometimes I wish I had me in high school too, but because I probably would have got here a lot quicker than I did as well. So I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, I would really appreciate if you could, you know, share it with somebody who you think might benefit from it. Leave me a comment. If you have a question or anything, you can leave that there too. Even if you're not watching this live, I will be checking the comments and questions and answer anything I can to the best of my ability. If you want more information like this, then you can check out my award-winning blog, and that's on my website at mycampusgps.ca. So that's it. Thanks. I'll see you here next week.